What's up, guys? It's Dorian. So today I'm going to look at Peppermint 9, which I downloaded on Friday when it was released, but I didn't really have a chance over the weekend to go through it. A little bit busy. So let's just get into it. I'll run through the install real quick and then bring it up and we'll go through it. So we'll have a look at the website here real quick. Peppermint 9, based on Ubuntu 18.04 LTS. Some people say on certain websites is based on Lubuntu, but I say it's based on Ubuntu and it uses components from different desktops, which I will get into when I get to the desktop portion after I run through the installer really quick. So they've made some changes, which I'll go through really quick, like replacing LXRander with the XFCE for Display Manager. These are all different components that they've switched and swapped back and forth. Some things are new, such as the system notification settings has a do not disturb option. They've installed HTOP. There's a new option to find your mouse cursor by holding Alt-C. I'll show you that after. One of the big things here is they switched from the Chromium web browser to Firefox. So they flopped back and forth a little bit. I personally prefer Firefox now. I switched from Chromium to Firefox Quantum because the latest versions are just awesome. And I can see this name that's in bold here, Carl Schneider. So that's awesome. He's one of my patrons and one of my subscribers. You'll see his comments. And stuff on SSBs, which I will get into after. So let's just have a quick look at the installation that I did before. This is in a virtual machine, so boot it up, you get your typical grub menu of trying Peppermint OS Live or install. I'm going to boot into the live installation. I had a little bit of a glitch here. I think it was just VirtualBox, just a bunch of characters all over the screen. And while it's waiting to boot up here, we'll just talk about it here. The ISO itself is 1.3 gigs, which is pretty small. Installed is 4.7 gigs, which is fairly standard, but the RAM usage at 308 megabytes when you boot in is very, very low. I've actually seen it lower once it's installed even. So one thing I had an issue with here was trying to get the screen to resize. A lot of the times it can be even smaller than this, so I was kind of lucky that it was at least this large. So I had a look at the terminal to see if it was maybe a driver issue, so an LSPCI-K to view the kernel modules and drivers showed me that it is indeed using the VBox video modules. So I tried to go full screen, resize, in and out of full screen, trying to get it to change, but it really wouldn't, so I decided, you know what, let's just get on with the installer. So the installation is Ubiquity, which is the Ubuntu installer. Pretty standard. It's from 18.04, which brings you the two options of a normal installation or a minimal installation. And of course, you also want to install third-party software for graphics and Wi-Fi hardware and additional media formats. I don't see a reason why you would not want to check that box. Then you're presented with the partitioning, and like I said, I installed Peppermint 9 before, and I decided to do it again just so that I could record this video. And then you have your standard time zone, create your user, set your username and password, everything that you'll find in any Ubiquity Ubuntu-based installer. So we'll just skip to the end here, and instead of restarting, I decided to continue testing so I could properly shut it down. So I'll fire up my virtual machine here with Peppermint installed. The actual installation itself took 3.5 minutes on a SSD, so that's not too bad. I'm going to move this here. And again, nothing's really been done since I installed it, so we're still going to have the smaller screen, and I'm going to quickly go through installing guest editions in case you want to try it. Just log in here. So before getting into it, let me just do this. On your devices, insert guest edition CD. So a few things that you need to do. Let's see if I can get this in here. We're going to do a apt update, entering your password. There's a couple things that you have to install before you can install the guest editions, and this is on any Ubuntu-based distribution. All right, so the sudo apt update is done. So you're going to do a sudo apt install build essential and module assistant. Install those packages. It's 129 megabytes of disk space, but it's only 29 megabytes download, so it's not too bad. Okay, so build essentials and module assistant are installed. So I'm going to open the file manager and you're going to click on the devices. This is going to mount it. And you can do it from here. You can go into the terminal from here. I don't like double clicking these. So from the terminal, once you've mounted the drive, let's get rid of this transparency. Now you're going to go CD, media, your username, and then the folder of that virtual disk that you just mounted. Then you're just going to sudo vbox, /vbox Linux editions.run. If you do the /, it will complete the files that are in that folder. Copying additional modules, it's going to take a little while. If you don't install the build essentials and the module assistant, you're going to get an error here. It needs those packages to be able to compile the VirtualBox guest editions. So once this is done, it's just a matter of rebooting. So let me just go back full screen, do this, and now let's reboot. Now when it loads up, it should allow me to change the screen resolution, go full screen. I'm not going to be stuck in a tiny box anymore. And here we go. So let's go full screen. Enter in your password. The login manager, by the way, that you just saw is LightDM. And now we're at the desktop. So first of all, it is the XFCE environment. So it uses the XFWM, so the XF window manager, which has a built-in compositor. So that allows you to have transparency and it'll stop flickering and fluttering. You might see some flickering on the recording. I don't know, I'm not really looking at it right now, but anyways, so other than the window manager, there's a nice mix of software here. So you have your desktop here, which has a nice dark theme. We'll open up the file manager and the terminal. Now, I'm not a huge fan of how this window manager makes the inactive windows transparent, but anyways, let's have a look here. So we have because it is Ubuntu based, let me try that again. It is using kernel 4.15, just like Ubuntu 18.04. And if we have a look in etc apt sources.list, you can see that it uses the Ubuntu repositories. Now, most distros have their own repository as well, and if you look in here, you won't see them, but just so you know, if we have a look here, and we go to that folder that I was in, so it's etc apt. Of course, it uses apt because it is Ubuntu based. And so here's that sources.list, but you can also have in sources.list.d another file in here. So if we open that up, we can see, this transparency drives me a little nuts. We could see here that they have their own repo here. So it does use the Ubuntu repos. It also uses their own Peppermint repos for their own things. One example, probably this editor, which I believe is Z. Yeah, so it's very much like Gedit, but it is not Gedit. So that's probably in their repo along with their own little customized things here and there. So let's go over just the desktop first here. So we've got the XFCE4 panel here with the launcher. We have a desktop pager and an update manager, which is Mint. Yes, it's from Mint. So we have parts from Mint already. Then you have your network manager, battery, volume, and the language bar here, which is by default, which is strange. You don't see that too often, but by default it is there. So we'll get rid of this here. While I had the file manager open, I should have also noted that this is Nemo. This is very similar to Nautilus, which you will find in GNOME, except they decided to fork it in Linux Mint because when version 3.6 of Nautilus came out, there were some features that were removed that they wanted to keep. So they decided, instead of upgrading and continuing with Nautilus and losing the features that they wanted to keep, they forked it and called it Nemo, so they could keep their own settings and keep things the way that they wanted instead of just following along with the Nautilus developers. So going through in software, very top here, you've got your settings, lock, switch users, and log out or shut down, which brings up this little menu here. So let's start off with the Peppermint settings panel. So first, Peppermint control panel is one of the options here, which is your window manager options. I didn't see in here, I could have clicked through it really quick. Desktop effects, inactive windows, there we go. So I did skip through too quickly when I was going through this. So now it should stay solid. Perfect. So there you go. I was skimming through really quick. I was looking for a checkbox, but it's actually sliders. And you could change that when you're moving and everything. So there you go. So that changes the compositor settings. The compositor handles transparency, among many other things. Your keyboard shortcuts, advanced. So there's quite a few options in here. One of the things, before I forget, that I want to show is the mouse cursor finder, as you can see here. So it's kind of neat. It seems to be stuck now. You know what? Maybe it's because I held it for too long. I don't know if you're supposed to hold it, but now it's going a little crazy. I guess it's just a one-time press, so I think I might pause the video here and wait for this to end. Okay, so it finally stopped on its own. I'm going to try it again. Press Alt-C. There you go. So press Alt-C and then let go. Don't hold it. So I was holding it while I was doing it, figuring that it would, just stay like this as long as I held the button. But what was actually happening, the key repeat was making it happen hundreds of times and it would not stop. Eventually it stopped, but all right. So if you have a busy screen here, and I guess it's good if you have a high resolution display, you have a lot of stuff going on the screen, very busy, you might lose track of where your mouse is, especially if you're using a touchpad. You just press Alt-C really quick and it'll give you a little radar effect of where your cursor is. Press Alt-C, don't hold Alt-C. So that was pretty funny. Anyways, so the Peppermint settings panel. So moving on, customize look and feel. This is LX appearance. So like I was saying before, you have different components from XFCE4, from Mint, and from LXDE. So Lubuntu, Xubuntu, and Linux Mint. So basically what they've done here is they have gone through and picked the individual apps that are most useful and use the least amount of resources. So I think it's pretty cool. It's pretty smart of them to do it that way, because you get the best from everything, right? So let's have a look here at their themes for their widgets. You've got the standards, and then you have all the different peppermints. So you have all the lights and darks of pretty much every color of the rainbow. And these are standard that you get with any installation. Adwaita, pretty standard. So let's go back to, what was the original? Red, dark, right. And then your color scheme, you can change icon themes. So they use this Papyrus Dark, which is pretty nice. There's also a whole mix of different colors here that you can use, and it also includes the Pneumix icon theme as well. Mouse cursor themes, usually there's not a lot, so that's not something I will typically change either. Font settings, so these are your typical LX appearance settings. So pretty standard here, very customizable. So we'll close this and move on to panel preferences, which is this panel here. Very much like in XFCE4, you can add, remove, change. You can add extra panels and place them wherever you want. And you can change, remove, yes. And then you could change the individual settings and move the pieces around and customize. Very customizable. So if I want to go in here, go to items and this workplace switcher, if I don't want that, hit minus to get rid of it, remove, and it's gone. And then you can re-add it. You can re-add a whole bunch of stuff here and then just move them around using the up and down arrows to where you want them on the panel. So very customizable. That's one real nice bonus about XFCE4. Next up, the Customize Pneumix icons. So this one is a little interesting because it looks to me, while I haven't played with it a lot, it looks to me like you can make your own custom Pneumix icons in any style that you want and change the colors. So that's pretty neat. You can do, if you have like a complete custom desktop, you can make it look however you want. Now, again, I haven't played with that. I'm not really going to get into that, but that's something you can play around with. That's pretty interesting. Wallpapers uses the Nitrogen wallpaper manager. It's just a matter of picking apply, what type, and your preferences. You can add other folders where you have pictures so that you can have some in your pictures folder or wherever you want. Pretty standard. The language support and keyboard settings I'm going to skip because they're pretty standard in all distros, and usually something you can figure it out. You set it once and you never really have to touch it again. So Dropbox is something that's a little interesting. This will let you download Dropbox. So we can do that now and install it. Actually, you know what? I'm going to cancel it. I guess it's just a nice little shortcut so that you don't have to go to the site, download it, and install it manually. So it's just a one-click install, basically. So now tweaks, let me just close this. And you know what, why don't I zoom in here since I'm in here. Tweaks reset the panels to default, which is nice because sometimes you change things around, you delete stuff, and you want to put it back. Turn off system sounds, something else that's really good because not everybody likes to have the system sounds when you log in, log out, every time a pop-up comes up or whatnot. And usually, if you're listening to YouTube or music, that's a little annoying. Or if you're recording video and there's a bunch of bleeps and bloops popping up. So, would you like to turn on system sounds? No, leave it off. So next, character map, Decomp Editor, software updates and settings. So this is the standard Ubuntu software and updates program. You go in here and you can add and remove PPAs. You can see here they have their Peppermint PPA, which is the file I showed you earlier. And then the additional drivers, which will let you install like your NVIDIA graphics if you want to use proprietary drivers, and some Wi-Fi cards also have different drivers that you can use in here. But since this is a virtual machine, I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm not going to touch it because everything is working now. And moving on to hardware, printer, sound, display. Printers is your standard GNOME printers application. Sound is, I think this is Pulse Audio. This looks like Pulse Audio. Input devices, yeah, standard stuff. Display, this is the XFCE display manager. They changed from Xrender to this. Read the manual online. No, I'm not going to do that, but that's what this is. Change your resolution and handle multiple displays. I do have multiple displays, but again, because it's a virtual machine, I'm not going to be able to play with that now. Power Manager, the XFCE Power Manager, using another XFCE component. And Network Manager, SSBs, give me a minute to get to this. Peppermint proxy configuration, so lots of stuff here. Thunderbird theme lock, don't really understand what this is. I clicked on it and yeah, it wants a password. I'm not going to play with that because I don't understand exactly what it's doing other than locking a theme. and I don't understand why you'd want to do that, so I'm going to leave that there. But SSBs is something that I want to talk about. And let's see what's in the system. So your system is your standard users groups, update manager, and software manager, and synaptic package manager. So let's just have a quick look before I go back to the SSBs. Software manager, very, very useful. So is synaptic. It's probably going to give me an error because I have both open. Depending on which one you want to use the pretty one here with the icons, or you want to use this one. This one is a little more of a utility, and this is the one that I would prefer to use. But actually, saying that, I use the terminal, so it's your choice. I probably wouldn't use either of these, but they are here. So Firefox, let's have a look here. All your information with screenshots and even reviews. So this is really nice. It's not too often I see things that have reviews. AppGrid has reviews as well, so that's pretty neat. So SSBs, I'm going to show you. I'm going to skip a little bit ahead here. There's something I want to show you what an SSB is. Let's see what their little settings shows. So you can create and remove SSBs. SSBs are site-specific browsers. So I'll show you here. Personally, I'm not a fan of them. So if we go here and go to Office, you could see they have Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, and OneNote, and Google, all this stuff. So Microsoft Word, let's say we click on it, it's not actually installed on your system. All it's doing is opening a browser which doesn't have any of the buttons or text or anything up here, and it brings you straight to the Microsoft site where you would log in, and then it opens up a browser-based Word editor. But you can see here in the corner, it has the Firefox icon. You're browsing a web page, which is okay. It is very much like a Chromebook would be, where you're not installing this stuff on your hard drive locally and it's all online, which is okay. I personally don't like using those. I find sometimes they're a little clunky, and there's no reason why I can't use LibreOffice. So I would just use LibreOffice, or if it's just basic text, just use AbiWord or something like that. Super lightweight. If you don't have an internet connection, you can't use these. You're just going to get an error. So if I were to, let me see here, disconnect the network for a second. Okay, so now the VirtualBox is offline, and Office, let's go Excel online. It's going to try to open the page and say that it's not there. So it's great if you're guaranteed to have internet access, but if you lose internet access, you lose the ability to use these. So at least if you're using AbiWord, LibreOffice, whatnot, you lose your internet connection, no big deal. You can still keep working and save. But with these, the bad thing, the worst thing I guess that could happen is you're editing a large document and it's saving as you're typing. But then you lose your internet connection and you keep on working. Well, it's not saving anymore. And then you go to save and it's just kind of sitting there. Now you can't close it, you can't do anything. You have to make sure you leave it open until you get your internet connection back. So I'm not a huge fan of these SSBs, but it's something that Peppermint does, and they have a lot of SSBs, and you can create them. I don't understand the whole how you create it. You just enter in a name and then you enter in the web address of the SSB. So it's basically a shortcut to the website that opens a browser with no buttons and no menu and whatnot. So I don't know, maybe some people would like it. Personally, I do not like it, but that is a total preference thing. If you like it and you use it and it's awesome, awesome. I try to stay as unbiased as possible when I do these things. But now and then I feel I should give my personal opinion on something because, well, it's my video. So anyways, So let's go through the actual software now. So we've covered that it is a mix of different distros, putting the best together. As I said in the beginning of the video, it was using 308 megs on boot, and right now it's using 458, but that's because I opened a whole bunch of stuff, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that's cached. So moving on to what's actually installed here. So I'm going to skip the favorites because they're all in here. So you have your basic stuff in accessories. You're going to have your basic stuff in your system and settings as well. So your accessories are your archive manager, calculator, character map, disks, files, an icon browser, which is different. There's 2 screenshot utilities, task manager, terminal, text editor, which is Z, which I showed earlier. And these screenshot utilities, I'm not sure why they included 2. Maybe there was some type of battle going on between 2 groups of people who preferred one over the other, or maybe they use them both for different things. I'm not really sure, but there's 2. So whichever one you prefer, use and then uninstall the other, I suppose. So moving on from that, this icon browser, not sure why you would use an icon browser other than maybe you want to use a specific icon for something and you want to know where it is on your system. So you can click in your applications and pick one, and then it'll show you where the file name is. And it shows you a little preview of it here. So maybe if you're a developer, that's handy, or if you just want an icon to use for something, could be handy. If you use it for anything, let me know in the comments. I'm really curious about that. So that's pretty much it for accessories, basic stuff. Games, they've got a few games in here, your typical stuff. 2D, 3D chess is interesting. And first person Tetris, which is an SSB. So again, something that's going to open in a browser and take you to a website. These actually are all SSBs, which I don't like. You know, if you're offline and you open up Solitaire, it's not going to open because you're not connected to the internet. And I would suggest that perhaps there would be an extra icon or something on the icon, an overlay, or maybe a different color of text or something that will let you know just by looking at it that it is an SSB. Or I know it says in the pop-up here, which I can't put my mouse on, but it says in brackets here SSB, ICE SSB. It should be more clear, I would think, but that's just me. Moving on to the graphics. Document viewer, which should be events, I suppose. It is indeed. So this is from the GNOME side of things, but it's used for other things as well. And we have graphics editor by Pixlr, which is also an SSB and an SSB and simple scan. So again, more SSBs that are just thrown in with all the other applications, which is okay. As I said, it should be more clear. And it would be nice if there was an option. I know Pixlr and Microsoft Office Online, there is no version that you can download unless you buy it, right? So I guess it's the free way of getting it, I suppose. So internet, we have a BitTorrent client and Dropbox, which will install it, or maybe I already installed it. No, I canceled it, that's right. And Firefox, which is interesting because they used to run Chromium and they switched to Firefox. And personally, I switched to Firefox as well because Firefox Quantum, which is what this is, and it is version 60, so it's one of the very newest versions. Firefox Quantum has gotten so much better, and I used to use Chromium for a long time until I tried this newest Firefox. I think it was 58 or 59, and it is so much better. It is super stable. It is quick. It's good with resources. Chromium was becoming such a system hog, and having multiple tabs open was just ridiculous. I could hear my fan spinning up. I was ready to drop it, and I tried Firefox, and that was it. Deal was done. So what else? ICE. So ICE, desktop integration for web apps. This is what I was talking about before, where you create or remove these ICE applications, which are SSBs. So this is basically, there's an option in Chromium and Chrome, and there might be one in Firefox where you can save a bookmark as a shortcut, as a .desktop file. And this is basically what that's doing for you. And it's kind of automating the process of putting it in the menus and whatnot, making it available as an application. So it's been around before, but this ICE is basically just doing that for you. And when you remove it, it goes in here and removes them for you. So is it handy? That's up to the user. That's totally up to the user. Online user guide, Peppermint forum, and Skype Web Client, which is also an SSB, even though there is, oh, you know what? I haven't checked in several months, but there was a Linux Skype client, and I'm not sure if that's gone or not, because honestly, I don't use it. I haven't used it in years. But anyways, this opens up an SSB for the web client. Under multimedia, we have this GoofC view for video capturing, Pulse Audio Equalizer, Pulse Audio Volume Control, and VLC as their video player that is installed by default. Under Office, we have the Events or Document Viewer, GNOME Document Viewer, shortcuts to Gmail, Calendar, Drive, and all the online things we went over before. In Settings, there's pretty much everything that was in the Peppermint control panel that I showed before, with a few extras like, you know, your login window to change things on the Light DM display manager, Samba, software and updates, and panel, and etc. But there's Adverts Blocker here, which is interesting. So let's just go in here. Yes, so it adds stuff to your etc/hosts file. So this is blocking at a level where applications will go to a certain website. Your computer scans this hosts file to see if there's already an IP address in there, as in your computer already knows the IP address, or you can modify it, right? So it can change this host file to say, let's, for example, you want to block adwebsite.com. So it'll put an entry in there that says adwebsite.com's IP address is 127.0.0.1, which is a loop back to your own computer, which means that you're just going to fail. It's going to say page not found. I've never actually used it, but it's possible that they will, your preferred ad blocking service. Yeah, it's possible that it will go to one of these sites, for example, and it'll just go to a page that tells you this page has been blocked because it contains ads, whatnot. So probably not something I would use. I prefer using a browser-based ad blocker, but that's something definitely cool to be able to block it for the whole system. So speaking of system, we have the Decomp Editor, which are settings that if you don't know what they're for, you should not play with them. However, there's lots of things online. When you're looking to, let's say, disable the lock screen or whatever, you can find websites online that'll tell you where to go in here to change that setting. So this is sort of like editing your Windows registry, but not as bad. You can do some damage, but not too bad. The package installer to install deb files that you've downloaded. HTOP, which is now included. It was not included before. Gives you lots of great information on your running processes and also allows you to completely customize it to look and display what you want. System, back to system. All right, so your screen lock software, software manager, synaptic manager, and task manager. This is the XFCE4 task manager. Another very lightweight component, which is very good, but one issue I do have with this is sometimes there is a application that you see running in your task manager and you don't know what it's for, you don't know where it is. So you would think you could right click and go to properties and see where it's located, but you can't see it with this. So very, very minor. There's plenty of ways to do it in the terminal. So this is a very minor negative point, I suppose. So Peppermint 9, pretty cool, based on Ubuntu 18.04 and using all the components from different Ubuntu-based distros to make a nice, lightweight, quick, and responsive OS. Do I like it? Yes, I do. And one thing that I like about it, because it is Ubuntu-based, and one of my recent gripes, which if you're subscribed to me, I'm sure you know, is snaps. And Snap is installed. However, there are no snaps installed by default, which makes me very happy. I think that's pretty cool. So, super lightweight, super convenient. SSBs, totally up to you if you want to use them or not. I would personally use that ICE menu and go in here and just remove everything and then manually install Office, install a Skype client or what have you, whatever you want, alternatives to the online SSBs. So yes, I'm happy with it. Would I use it myself? Well, there's plenty of lightweight OSs out there. I know this one is super popular and a lot of people really like it a lot. I would probably use it on an older machine. It's a good combination of the lightweight stuff and everything is still very handy. And I do like Nemo as a file manager. It's very similar to Nautilus, has a couple of extra things in there. So yeah, I'm happy with it, and I hope I covered pretty much everything there. I'm pretty sure that I did. If you want to try it out, head on over to the Peppermint page. It is in the link in the description below. There's a live OS option, so you can run it on a virtual machine, or you can run it off a USB stick, try it out, play with it, and then decide if you want to install it or not, or just check it out and see what it's like. And now before I go, there's something I'm very, very excited about here. If you have a look over here, I have 999 subscribers, which means one more interested soul in my channel, and I'll be at 1,000 subscribers. Actually, you know what? Let me refresh this. Yeah! I'm at 1,000 subscribers. That is pretty awesome. This should show it too, please? Yeah! Alright, well, happy days, guys. So, I'll probably mention this in another video. I'm going to do the random prize for the USB stick. I'm going to go through my subscriber list and I'm going to pick a random name and send it out. So I will contact you through YouTube. You'll get a message, you get a little bell here. I do believe that it is still available. I know they said they were going to get rid of being able to contact people, but if I go in here, let me see. Okay, private messaging will be ending soon. Okay, so I can still do it. So I'm going to notify somebody through YouTube that they've won. So look out for the bell if you won, and then we'll get in contact and I will send that out to you. So I'll give you a week. If you don't respond, then I'm going to do another draw. So, and I'll just keep doing that until someone receives the prize. So that's awesome. Oh, I'm so happy. All right, guys. Anyways, so if you haven't subscribed, now that wow, I'm at 1,000 subscribers. Sorry, guys, I'm a little surprised. The 999 was one thing, but hitting 1,000 is another. But okay, wow. Anyways, so if you guys haven't subscribed to me yet, please do that. And I want to give a huge thanks to my patrons, Carl Schneider, George Maris, Matt Hartley, Kit Waltz, and Says. And don't forget, guys, if you liked the video, also click the like button and click on the share button. Also click on the link to go to patreon.com and become one of my patrons and help support this channel so that I can bring some more content to the Linux community and my 1,000 plus subscribers. All right, thanks a lot, guys, for watching, and until next time, bash on.